right now on Justice. The dawn of a new day in America. The journey that began on a golden escalator comes to the nation's capital, with justice along for every step of the way. Tonight, we're live in Washington, D.C. with an exclusive interview with Eric Trump and actors Stephen Baldwin and Jon Voight. Plus, I go along with Bikers for Trump, who take on the angry protesters out to disrupt the peaceful transition of power. And later, street justice here in Washington as we usher in the new and wave goodbye to the old. Justice, live in the nation's capital, starts now. Breaking tonight, protesters rain down on Washington, D.C. and in cities across America and the world. And our country's new president puts the media on notice. The new Trump administration is off and running. Hello and welcome to a special edition of Justice Live from our nation's capital on the roof of the Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C. I'm Judge Jeanine Protests. Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll get to the protest in a bit and my exclusive one-on-one with Eric Trump. And by the way, the first interview anywhere with a member of the first family since the inauguration of our 45th president. But first, he may be president, but Donald Trump's feud with certain media outlets will not die. Today, President Trump spoke at the CIA, stating that certain television networks blatantly lied about the crowds that he drew on Inauguration Day. He also specifically called out a Time magazine reporter who said that the president had removed the bust of Dr. Martin Luther King from the Oval Office. Such was not the case, and the reporter later tweeted a retraction. And take a listen to President Trump, as well as White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, who addressed reporters in the White House.
We had a massive field of people. You saw that. Packed. I get up this morning, I turn on one of the networks, and they show an empty field. I said, wait a minute. I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there. And they said Donald Trump did not draw well.
These attempts to lessen the enthusiasm of the inauguration are shameful and wrong. There's been a lot of talk in the media about the responsibility to hold Donald Trump accountable. And I'm here to tell you that it goes two ways. We're going to hold the press accountable as well.
So, the gloves are off. And we're going to talk all about it tonight. But before we get to that and to Eric Trump, my opening statement. Now, you know that the only way to make actual change in this country is not only to have the moxie and the guts to do it, but also to not care about what the drive-by media and the haters think of it. To make change will take someone who doesn't obsess, put fingers to the wind, someone who doesn't give a damn about what the naysayers or the chattering classes say. He is someone who is focused and understands what it takes to get the job done. And he understands, because he's been up and down and smart enough to get back up again, that there will be bumps in the road. He understands that changing the bureaucracy and the Washington machine is not for the faint of heart. He understands that in order to do what has to be done, he can have no fear. Because Donald Trump has been fearless in his campaign to become commander-in-chief, and because he fought outside all the political boxes, because he was willing to go into a den of lions with only one thing in mind, winning, and indeed came out winning, Donald Trump will be the biggest change agent in the history of the United States. His speech yesterday reflected the man that America elected. It was straightforward, direct, By all accounts, Donald J. Trump. But some saw it as dark and militaristic and un-American. Rachel Maddow, for one, said, quote, "The crime, the drugs, the American carnage, the despair, the decay. You can't imagine the outgoing president giving a speech like that." This president also repeating that our guiding principle in America will be America first. America first. That's not what he said. This is exactly what the president had to say.
At the center of this movement is a crucial conviction that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Americans want great schools for their children, safe neighborhoods for their families, and good jobs for themselves. These are just and reasonable demands of righteous people and a righteous public. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now.
You know, for those of you who are fortunate enough to live in a world that doesn't involve poverty, the inner city, crime, drugs, or gangs that the president was talking about, you are the elite. You are the ones who are not connected to the reality of the life that so many in this great nation have to live. The president is not dark and militant. The president is simply talking about a world that exists for people in this great nation who never asked to be victims of crime, never asked to be born in the inner city, never asked to be victimized by drugs or gangs, and never asked to be trapped in poverty. Thank God there is a man who is strong enough to admit to our faults and our weaknesses and is willing to take them on, shine a light on them, show them to all of us so that we together can make a difference for all of us, and yes, even the weakest among us. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter, #Judge Jeanine.